Back in the lab, as the kids would say. Those kids, of course, do not include Mike Giardi, who I think next time we have you on is you join us here previewing Pat's Bears on Sunday and sharing 6 big picture thoughts about the team. I want to do a new segment where you and I trade list of Gen Z phrases, and whoever gets the most right, and granted, I'm 33, I should know more. I think I top out at 1, and it's Riz, so now I ruin the game. But we will do more modern phrases to see who's actually older, because you and I are more aligned despite the age gap than more would think. What do you think of that game?
I think I would do miserable, which probably would be pretty funny. I have on occasion texted my kids, like I'll hear some, like a player will say something and I'll be like, I guess I should know what that is, but I don't. And I'll I'll text my son, what does this mean? And they'd be like, oh, yo. But I have texts from him that I saved from even like when he was like 12 or 13, where I'd say, hey, where are you or something? And he'd write something back and I'd be like, that's not even English. And he'd be like, well, that means this. I'm like, what? How am I supposed to know what that means? Speak to your father in a normal language. You can speak to your friends however you like.
And then he says something like, all right, bet.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Something like finna. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll save more for the game. So here's the deal. It is week 10. The Patriots are 2-7. The Bears are 4-4. There's not a whole lot of national attention around this or many other Patriots games because that's just how things go when you were 2-7. And there are fun storylines, and it's Drake May and Caleb Williams reunited. And I think anyone should be excited to see either of them play, former top 3 picks. But for the purposes of our podcast today, I think it is more instructive to go big picture. Hence the 6 thoughts. You have 3. I have 3. I don't know what you're going to say, but you know, as you told me this, that I'm aware of that my flippant, reluctant B grade for Elliott Wolf has gone over very well in the radio sphere now since online. And I just want to start by saying when I give this flippant, reluctant B, at least to Elliott Wolf for the draft class, halfway through its first season, playing for the worst team in the AFC, a new head coach, one of the worst offensive staffs in the league, underperforming defensive staff was, I meant A++. I think Elliott Wolf is already better than his father, Ron, a Hall of Famer. I think Elliott Wolf walks on water. I think he turns around, puts a finger down, and turns that water from wine into wine. And I can tell you that wine tastes good because I've had a lot of it. So I just wanted to clear all that up about my feelings about Elliott in this draft class, which of course has been miserable on the field aside from Drake May. But it's
I'm glad you came clean, and obviously it's because you have his phone number. So you're obviously, as it's been discussed on the radio, you're defending a source by giving him such a high mark. So
no, I don't have a phone number. I just have a gun pointed at me from across the room, and that's really what it is. Stacy, you can put it down now.
I was actually going to say, was that your wife who was over there?
No. Her gun looks different. Sorry, Cheryl. Again, not my wife's name, but someone who listens to this podcast. Anyway, all silliness. People get roasted on the radio all the time. I didn't know that source part because I legitimately, not like when players say, "Oh, I don't care what you think about." Like, hey, ask Joel Embiid how he feels about media coverage down there, because a lot of players hear stuff. I think the source guessing game is stupid because you want to reach out and correct stuff, but then what that does is shrink the pool of people you actually might be talking to. And obviously, I spoke to Elliott on the record for a story. Did not go through Elliott to get that. It was Stacey James, and then it was on the phone. Stacey was on the line, and that's what it was because he's a head of PR, and that's how they handle things. So, I guess I just had a conversation I don't want to have to, but I just think it's shitty on their part because there's no way for us to speak up about it. And I would bet almost anything. I don't have to ask Stacey to ask Elliott this. Hey, what does he think about me giving him a B on this podcast after a week 9 game with the Patriots lost? And I just threw something out to a reader. I said, don't ever give out draft class grades after 9 games. The answer would be he probably doesn't give a shit. To which I totally respect because we're all going to wait and see, him included. He obviously feels good about it. I think everyone else, myself included, feels worse aside from May. But moving on. Okay, so here is the deal with our 6 big picture thoughts today. One from about the Patriots' recent past. So this is sometime at the start of the season. You could go all the way back to when Giardi and Elliott were hired. Something that you want to share. Then something about the present, where we are right now, 2-7, about the state of the Patriots. And then something about the future. And I didn't tell you today when I saw you at Gillette how far into the future this could go. But you and I have already done a podcast about what the Patriots look like, not in 2025, but in 2026. So do whatever you like. You go, I go, and again, at the end, we'll get to the Bears preview. So what is your big picture thought about the Patriots' recent past?
So I think this goes back to the offseason, and this is why I would quibble with your grade that you gave Elliott Wolf, is he didn't do enough with the roster. They're sitting on almost $40 million of cap space. I was very vocal against re-signing almost all of the players from a 4-13 team, but that's what they chose to do. And lo and behold, you turn that over to an inexperienced coaching staff, and you're 2-7, and there's holes everywhere. And as we sit here on Thursday, as we're taping this, there's talk about Mike Onwenu moving to left guard and practicing there, and they're doing all this juggling of the offensive line. And I say, boy, sure would have been nice to have given, say, 2 years and $25 million to Jonah Williams and to be your left tackle. And maybe he doesn't work out as a left tackle, but he still could play right tackle because he was pretty good at that at Cincinnati. And you say, oh, that's a lot of money for a guy who's maybe not they have the money. They didn't have the talent. You have to overpay in free agency. You have to overpay when your roster is as empty as theirs is. And they didn't. And there were a lot of places where they did that, even like in depth pieces. Look at their defensive line. Elliott went with Armin Watts, who did he make it out of camp? He maybe made it out of camp. No, he didn't make it out of camp. Right? I was going to say he might have got cut in the first week. So he's not here. So that's a swing and a miss. Chuks Okorafor signed before the offseason even started, washed out in Pittsburgh. And you thought you were going to make him a left tackle. Like, you go on and on and on about some of the moves that they made and how they failed. And then the lack of taking the money and some of the flexibility they had and investing into this roster to at least make it competent. Instead, I think here's your colleague, Doug Kyde, who had of the 53 guys on the roster right now, 14 or 15 of them have been cut by another team this season or within the last year, something like that. It was a pretty stark stat. And it was just like, yeah, of course, because you decided to keep all your money over here after you signed your core guys from a 4-13 team, and this is what you get. You get a roster that is. I never thought it was going to be complete. I never thought they could fix it all in one off season. In many ways, I didn't want them to try to fix it all in one off season because that can lead to major mistakes. But like, oh, what's Jonah Williams? Well, look, man, if Jonah Williams stinks after 1 year, you eat the $10 million that's left on his contract and you walk away, and there's absolutely no harm, no foul. You didn't ruin your ability to do something big this coming off season. And that's why, again, the roster has so many freaking holes, and they didn't do enough to address it.
They did not. It's a criticism I've levied on this podcast and other places too, because the plan that they had, let's be honest about it, was not a name. It was about numbers. Let's sign as many guys as possible, throw them at the wall, and see who sticks. And the Patriots did this the year before with Bill Belichick and Riley Reif and Calvin Anderson. We'll just kind of like figure it out. And granted, there's a lot of bad injury luck baked in there. Calvin Anderson gets malaria 2 summers ago. Riley Reif was washed. You could have seen that coming. This year, Chuks Okorafor is literally a left tackle. He's gone. He left. And then you have Caden Wallace, who goes down in week 3, and we haven't seen him on the field since. They didn't plan for any of this, but the difference is if you had signed a Jonah Williams, who I can tell you from actual reporting and talking to people, they just were out on. They didn't like him, but he's a guy, to your point, has started in the league successfully, not just at left tackle, but at right tackle, okay? If he's the injured one, and it's not Caden Wallace, as soon as he's back, you've got a starting caliber player. Right now, even if Caden Wallace comes back, you don't know if he would start, aside from the fact that the best case is not he's good enough. It's that he's young enough for them to develop. So you needed a starting caliber player in here that you set and forget. And even if he does get hurt, he comes back and fixes that. And now, if you do want to go, okay, well, you could have signed Jonah Williams and you still have one spot open because, let's be honest, Mike Onwenu is going to be a guard. He might even start at left guard on Sunday. You have 2 open spots. Well, at least then I feel more comfortable throwing numbers at the left side of the line, as opposed to both of them, and fingers crossed, hope both work out, because neither have. And on that left side, it could have been Caden Wallace and Chuks Okorafor and Bedard Lowe, because Jonah Williams or Jermaine Illuminor, whom they should have signed, has the right side locked down, and that's it.
Yeah, look, I can't argue with anything you said there. I just, even if you wanted to look at this year, and they were reluctant to use the word rebuild at various points, but they have it. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to walk that line. Like, no, dude, we know what it is. Like, don't try to tell me you're trying to win 10 games this year. Your roster is not good enough. You know it's not good enough. It's why the previous guy who lorded over the franchise for 20 some odd years is gone. We knew this was going to be a multi-year process, but you're sitting here on week 10, and I mean, it's pretty messy. And I think I'll point to my next topic when we get to the next phase of this thing, but it's just, they didn't do enough, and it's pretty egregious, I think, on their part. And, There's a lot of guys that are working their asses off in that building, and to what end? Like I wouldn't. You hate to say this, but I wouldn't blame some guys if they're just like, you know what?
Are you talking players?
Care. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't care. Why should I care at this point? I got to worry about my next contract, my next place.
Yeah. It's difficult because I think you have to know what you're signing up for when you sign with the Patriots. Let's say you're KJ Osborne, right? Oh, and now you're upset. What did you think was going to happen, right? Like, this is a team actively rebuilding, lowest over-under total before the season in the AFC, 13.9 points per game, and you're the big difference maker now. Look, all the confidence in the world, you're not adding another 3 points and a field goal every single game. So if you're losing snaps because you're also playing poorly, well, that's on you. Now, Jacoby Brissett is eating it and sitting on the bench and doing okay. He knew the deal he got in here, and granted, he got $8 million guaranteed for that reason. But I think you have to know what you're stepping into, and what you're stepping into is a clear and obvious rebuild.
Yeah, it is. And just as the quick aside, why is KJ still here? I don't even. Question. Yeah, like if you couldn't trade him, didn't want to. If you couldn't trade him, he should be cut. Like you're onto this place now where we're openly talking. You were even asking questions today about it. We're openly talking about playing the young kids, and you design a play for Jaheim Bell, who had heretofore been on the side of a milk cart.
Do you agree with that, by the way? Like, I think they made it clear there were breadcrumbs, or now we've got like full long crusts on the grass, right? On the ground, right? Like,
yeah, let's not. But see, that's my point. Like, just embrace it. Say, hey, look.
Yeah,
we know what we are. We know where we are in this whole process, and you're going to see more of Jaheim Bell and Javon Baker, assuming that he shows up on time and knows where he's supposed to go. And Jalen Polk, even though it's not gone great, like we drafted him in the second round, he's going to be out there. Layden Robinson just got sat down in the middle of a game, right? Because he couldn't handle Jeffrey Simmons, which was as much their fault as their fault as it was his fault.
Yeah.
However, the idea that now you're moving Onwenu to left guard is what? We're playing Layden, okay? We think he's part of the future, or we want to find out if he can be part of the future, and we're going to put him in the lineup, and God willing, health-wise, he stays out there and proves to us one way or the other that he belongs to be part of our plan going forward, or he doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to thought number 2. Current state of the team right now, nothing shoulda, coulda, woulda, or this was good, this was bad. This is happening right now.
I'm losing faith in the coaching staff by the day. And I need them to show me something, because I don't know that they know what they're doing. And I just wrote this about the Onwenu story today. Like, it's bad enough that I'm not sure they know what they're doing, but internally, like, what is the plan? They're just throwing stuff at the wall left and right. And look, again, there are some injury things that you can talk about, but you can't find someone to play left guard for you. Michael Jordan's been declining for 3 straight weeks. Actually, not even declining. It was bad 3 weeks ago. It was bad 2 weeks ago. And it was bad this past week.
We went from Chicago, MJ, to Wizards like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, we went to fat, bloated, cigar-smoking, whiskey-drinking on the golf course.
Hornets, owner, like not shadow GM,
that's
but
where
really
we're at
making
now.
bad picks. Yeah.
And, like, look, that's who Michael Jordan is. He's a journeyman offensive lineman, like a down-the-roster depth piece. And you got a couple good games out of him, and now it's gone in the wrong way. Like, I don't know what the plan is. I don't feel like they're utilizing their personnel in the best place. I hate to invoke Bill Belichick's name again, because he deserved to be fired, and he helped set this roster up to look like it does right now. But one of the things that Belichick would do, and really for the better part of the 2+ decades he was here, he stuck to, was, I am not weakening one spot to try to strengthen another spot. And, last year, yes, he had to put Mike Onwenu at right tackle, but right tackle was an absolute debacle. And it was just like, we can't do anything. Let's move him out here. We think we can get by at right guard. And they were somewhat able to cobble that together. This year, Onwenu's right tackle, he's right guard. Now he could be the left guard. He hasn't played in the left side since 2021. He hasn't had a good year this year, and he even talked about that on Thursday with reporters. Like, and maybe the moving has something to do with it. Maybe it's his conditioning. Whatever it is, it hasn't helped. He's as Alex Van Pelt said, he's our best offensive lineman, which again is kind of damning that group with faint praise based on how he's played. But Okay, then just leave him there. Leave him at right guard. That's what he does well. He wasn't a good right tackle. He was a competent right tackle when you had to put him out there last year. This year, he hasn't shown to be a good right tackle. He hasn't shown to be a really good guard this year either, but like that's his spot. Just leave him there. That's where he belongs. And you work everything else around it instead of, you know what? No, now we're going to do this. Why didn't they cross-train Layden Robinson? Why isn't Layden Robinson the one who's moving to left guard? And you had problems at left guard, as I mentioned, for the last 3 weeks. Why wasn't, if he was ready, why didn't he slide in there? You know, there's just so much about it where I wrote about it on Tuesday as well, where I said, and I'm not afraid to make a bold proclamation as I wrote. I said, sink, sank, sunk last year. I stood by it. It was what it was. Like, if I feel it, I'm gonna write it. I don't want to write these guys off after 9 games. It's not enough evidence. I'm like, that's fact. It's not enough evidence. But what they've shown me for 9 weeks, 8, because the first week was a good week. What they've shown me for the last 8 weeks is like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know that anyone's getting better or significantly better. You and I were having this conversation outside the media workroom yesterday, where I was like, give me a place where they've gotten significantly better this year. Like, good coaching should be able to take players and raise their level a certain degree. There may be a cap on it because of the talent, but you should get me a little bit there. And there's really, what do you got? Do you got anything for me?
I got a lot for you.
Okay. I said it was a good rant. I was on a rant.
No,
you could have interrupted me at any time. You are the host. If you wanted to step in and say, Giardi, can you give me a second? Because you're getting red in the face. Veins are popping out of my neck.
We love you red in the face here. Number one, a better host would have announced that Mike Onwenu is at the end of this episode for a 4-minute exclusive interview. I think the highlight was him telling us about his worst date, where the woman belched and almost made him pass out from the smell of the belch. And then we got into a couple other things, including a Jim Harbaugh story.
You know what? He's got a very dry sense of humor, and I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, he was good. He was better than I thought he'd be. So a good 4-minute drill at the end of this episode. Number 2, as I saw you and Bob Sosi and Mike Reese all walking back towards the media room yesterday, Wednesday, ahead of me, before you and I had the chat that you just alluded to, I thought to myself, there goes shrink, shrank, shrunk. And that is said with all the love in the world for Mike and Bob, and none for you, all 5'9", generous and under.
You know why I was standing? I went up to them in the locker room and put my arms around both of them because and I'm not look, people call me short. 5'9" and change is not short. That's average height for a male. Yeah, but those two guys are tiny. So I like to post. I had arms around them. I felt great. I was like, man, it's like Shaq.
And just so when this gets aggregated and run on the radio for a week too, to be clear, love both of those gentlemen very much. Yes. We've had very serious life talks with both of them. Number 3, the answer to your question of where things gotten better is obviously Drake May, which is the most important position. It's the only player I think most people are watching right now. You could make a small case, tiny case. And I have a mention of this player in my Friday column, the Friday 5. Everyone's talking about it. And by everyone, I mean no one. Del Pettis and the safety group has outperformed my expectations without Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. There is a stat about Del Pettis and not missing a tackle, and how many players have also not missed a tackle given him snaps that you're not going to believe. Again, read that in my column. But the quarterback thing brings me to my second point. And before that, I have to remind you that even if the Patriots are losing this season, you can win real money at Prize Picks, America's number one daily fantasy sports app. You can make a lineup and win every Sunday, or now that the NBA is back, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as well. All you have to do is pick between 2 and 6 player stat projections, football, basketball, hockey, you name it. It's all right there. Go more or less on that stat projection. File your lineup. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. And if you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win. Again, play 5, get 50. That sounds like a good deal to me. And they use Venmo now. So everything is safe, secure, and easy. It takes 15 minutes. You don't attach your bank account, just your Venmo. It all goes through very easy. This is what I do. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. 2 to 6 player stat projections. Pick more, pick less. That's it. Pick Prize Picks. Run your game. Mike Giardi, why are you holding up a pen?
Did you write that out?
Most of it. But then I stumbled over half of it. So I think that makes it worse.
No, because I think that I am in the, for my podcast, All 32, little side shout out.
Pop that right now. People should be listening.
I do a terrible job with the game time and Prize Pick reads because I have it in my head, like, my brain, you can see how my brain works. Sometimes sometimes I don't finish sentences, or like another thought comes in and things are bouncing around.
Welcome to the ADD club, baby.
Yes. And so I get to, I'm in the show and then I'm like, oh, I probably should read Prize Picks, or probably should read Game Time. And I grab the thing, and then like the things that I said I was going to say about it, or the things that I wanted to highlight, just go right out the window. And then I'm like, oh, I think the other day I actually read like the line that says, read this line. I think I said, read this line. So I probably should try it. As someone who ad-libbed for years and years and years, eons in my television life, not exercising that muscle as much anymore, I probably should write it out, because they deserve better. Because who doesn't use Prize Picks or Game Time? Obviously, we all do.
No, and that's the part of the ad read, which I don't want to like bring everyone behind the curtain and introduce you to the Wizard of Oz and their names are Prize Picks and Game Time now. But like, these are products and services I use. I talked about it multiple times. Wife came with me to London. So did a friend who roots for the Jaguars, bought them tickets there. People are coming to a Celtics game, or they're coming to town. I want to take them out. I'm going to Game Time because we have that promo. It worked for me. $20 off matters to me in my life. Game Time is coming up later. You mentioned screwing up the Prize Picks ad. Not only did I stumble and faceplant over those first few words as I speak a little too fast, which people are right when you complain about this, I still speak fast. I forgot to give out my picks, which we have the Prize picks of the week. And so here they are really quickly. Nice. Drake May, more than 0.5 touchdowns. So Drake May to throw 1 touchdown pass. More than. DeAndre Swift for the Bears, more than 71.5 rushing yards. And I don't think I need to explain either one of those. Seem fair?
Yeah, you need one of the, Prize Picks has the adjuster. Sometimes you can find the different things. And if DeAndre Swift, you could go higher. If it was more, there's an opportunity to go 90 something. I would probably take that based on how they're defending the run here for the last, 7 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. My number 2 thought, back to Drake May. So you are losing confidence in the coaching staff by the day. And I understand that. What I will say, though, is when we have this larger discussion about Alex Van Pelt, and we remind ourselves that no one catches flack in any football market quite like the offensive coordinator, is that I think we can have a separate conversation about the design of the offense. I'm critical. Too many isolation routes. Need a little bit more help for the worst receiving core in the league. And the play calling, which a lot of people are not thrilled about. And I think there were fewer issues than people thought Sunday in Tennessee. But the one issue we should universally be praising him for, in an area that I don't think he's getting enough credit, okay, because he's also standing over there with a Nerf gun pointed at my head, is for developing Drake May. And if you made a list at the moment Alex Van Pelt was hired of the most important things you need to do to stay here and do a good job, number 1 was going to be develop a young quarterback that we more than likely draft in April. They drafted one. Since then, we have seen Drake May go from the number 3 pick to the 3rd quarterback in the spring, the number 2 guy in the summer. For the first 3 weeks, by completion percentage, turnover rate, sacks, he was worse than Jacoby Brissett. That is a fact. If you watch those practices, you saw it. If you charted those practices like you and I did, you have the numbers. They're all there. What happened then was he got better. And that gets better with drills and coaching and scheme understanding and chemistry. And he has taken off to the point now he is probably their best player in offense. And that's even true in games when he throws 2 picks and loses a strip sack and gets fumbled and gives the game away. And you're still going, he played better than anyone else around him. And I'm going, I can't even blame him for the turnovers. They were bad, but he's a rookie in a bad situation, and everyone feels like they nailed it. And I think Alex Van Pelt, from the drills to the teaching to working with him in the plays that he likes and doesn't, deserves more credit than he's getting right now for that portion of his job.
I have tried to bring up this point every time I'm asked about Alex, whether, the offense, the design, the some people say the simplicity of it, the lack of motion, all these different things. And I would say what I learned about Alex when I researched him after they hired him and talked to a bunch of people that he's worked with, coached, etc., is that he's really good with quarterbacks and he'll reach the quarterback. And if he believes in the quarterback, you should believe in the quarterback too, because he's pretty good at this. And we have seen that. He's done a terrific job with him. Here's the problem, though. The problem is 2-7 becomes, say, 4-13 at the end of the year. There's going to be fall guys. And he's probably right now trending to be the fall guy of the coordinator, head coach, because I don't think the head coach is going anywhere, and I don't think the DC is going anywhere. That means the OC's, again, if it continues on this track, he's in trouble. because I think upstairs is going to say we need to make changes. I'm not running back the same group again after what we just did. And also, I think upstairs, and I'm not talking about Elliot, listens to the radio stations and reads the newspaper and the Friday Five and Mike's musings and all these different things. And they hear us complaining about it and they react to it. Even though they claim they don't listen, they listen and they react. I think Alex is in trouble if it doesn't turn and the offense isn't all of a sudden, I don't know, whatever it is. There's certain measurements they're going to have to hit, I think, here in the second half of the season. And how do we know that Drake's not going to take a step back at some point during this? Maybe Sunday was the start of it. Maybe he turns it over a couple more times in Chicago.
Yeah, that game is going to come for sure.
Right. So then, is that going to also fall at Alex's feet? Because at the beginning of the year, for 5 weeks before they made the change, Gerard Mayo kept going out of his way to talk about the scheme. We got to scheme it up better. He didn't say that about the defense. He said the defensive players weren't playing well. Scheme is good. We're just not making the plays we're supposed to be making. We got guys there that don't make the tackle. Whatever it may be. Never put it on the scheme. Put it on the players. But on the offensive side, he put it on Alex quite a bit, which again to me is laying the groundwork for him being a fall guy. And then that means what? That means another new offensive coordinator and another new coach for your quarterback.
So
which is absolutely the worst freaking thing to do.
Okay. I should have interrupted earlier just to ask you this question because I think it's really important for people who are not paying attention or don't know the difference sometimes between a report. Like I've done actual reporting, phone calls, research. I know this to be true because it can be proven versus, hey, reading the tea leaves, my experience more than 20 in the market and covering this team tells me this. Which was that? Like hard reporting and it's really trying
No, that's just my gut. Okay. I've seen this and done this before. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm sitting there for my weekend notes. I've written about Shane Waldron, who's the offensive coordinator in Chicago. I was writing about Luke Getzey's when they hired him in Vegas, saying that's not the right guy. This isn't going to work. And guess what? They just fired Luke Getzey's. Like I've been around it enough to understand if it doesn't go in a certain direction and ownership feels they picked Gerard Mayo. As Robert told us, 7 years ago on a trip to Israel, things would have to disintegrate pretty badly for him to be gone at the end of the year. So if he's going to be back and DeMarcus is his guy, DeMarcus is going to be back. What are you changing? You're going to change like the running backs coach or something? Like that's not going to satiate the cries for change that come from everywhere, from fan base, from media, etc. Like they'll react to
it. Is this in any way related to your third thought about the future of the team? Just don't give that to us yet, but because it basically is mine to talk about the shakeup. So that'll lead us into the second one. I do want to add one line though. Two things about what you're talking about, the suggestion that Alex Van Pelt is trending towards being the fall guy. Because fall guys are very common in the NFL. You're absolutely right. The coordinators are here to go before the head coach does. That's what they're there for if things go bad. But, I would backtrack. In addition to that, you have, I would say, a coach that you could avoid if you're making the case, hey, we should get rid of Alex. Ben McAdoo's in the building, former head coach, former offensive coordinator. He's also had a hand specifically with the footwork, where all the credit goes to Van Pelt, as I just gave. But it really is a combined effort between the two. He can take over and do the job. He's been zoomed out a little bit. He can dive in and do it just as well. I'm not advocating for that, but if you are someone who is, I think that would be a logical move. Number two, I would say, though, is if, again, you brought him in here to be a locker room culture guy, and if you brought him in here to be a development guy with the quarterbacks, but you're firing him for different reasons, things that you did not acknowledge or bring him in as a strength, schematics, winning, well, then why was he here? Because the things you brought him in here for take time. And what you've seen already from the development indicates that he's doing a good job with Drake May. So if you change your mind, that's one thing, but that's not his fault, right? And so I think you need to stick to, why did we hire him in the first place? Yes, he was the 12th or 13th out of 13 or whatever. Not plan A, okay? And some of the candidates they did interview, Shane Waldron being one of them, Luke Getzey was another, we're not that impressed. Never going to come here. He did. I think part of the reason you want to build up this culture in this locker room, keep guys like that, not only on the roster, but on your coaching staff, something that Mayo brought up. couple weeks ago, and I tweeted, I was like, oh, it's very interesting. I tweeted this in the Friday Five last week. This Mayo quote about everyone on the coaching staff has to also be rowing the same way, which brings me to my future thought. Yes, I think shakeups are coming, and that's clear as day right now. It's not only because the Patriots are 2-7, trending towards 4-13 or 3-14. I think a guy like Tayler Kyles, I would be surprised at this point if he's back. Maybe you do get a new running backs coach, Taylor Embry, fired by the Jets last year, lands in New England. Offensive line, you got 3 coaches. You could probably change up one of them. And then, the quarterbacks are doing a fine job. Bob Bicknell, tight ends coach, been solid, but Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry come out of the microwave. Like, that's ready-made. You know what it is. You know what you're going to get. There's no cooking that needs to be involved there. Defensively, Jerry Montgomery, Drew Wilkins, new guys, more fall guys. I would set the number at, this is my gut feeling, not reporting, over under 3.5 for new assistants.
That's a good number, and I'm going to take the over.
I almost did 2.5, and I thought you were going to be 2. He's like,
2.5 is easy. I was thinking 3.5 was a good number to set, and then I was trying to, as you were hemming and hawing there, I was trying to figure out would I go over. I would go over on that.
And I'll throw.
I don't think. Too. Let me just ask you this though, this is just we're just spitballing here, people. Don't aggregate. You fire the interior defensive line coach. Does that move a needle for anybody? Does anybody go, oh, good, they're good. You know what? They're getting it on track back down there. They're dialed in now. No, it's just like that doesn't.
It's the point to move the needle on the radio or with ownership and make them feel good for a week or two, or is it to get a better product on the football field? Because if you have the ability not to care about the radio stuff, the media stuff, the fan stuff, to be honest, you should not. Because if you win, if you get a better product on the field, everything else will take care of itself. That would be my question. If you're doing it to satisfy ownership and just some change, any activity they view as productivity, that's fine. If you don't think Jerry Montgomery is part of the problem, then I would not fire him or anything. This is just groups where you could easily identify the receivers have underperformed. Tayler Kyles, guy who's never been a position coach in the NFL before that anyway. That's why I keep bringing him up. I think it's a very obvious choice for this. Dark, not as dark as you could be having conversation this week, but around the Patriots and the offense, I think he comes up more. Does he move the needle, though? Like, what do you mean? Like, from the media reaction, ownership?
I just think that when you start moving the deck chairs in the back, that doesn't, I don't like, how are you selling that to Robert and Jonathan? Hey, our offense did whatever. We have 17 points a game, 18 points a game. The receivers can't get out of their own way. Offensive line was a hot mess. But boy, I keep hearing often about how our offense is just not very advanced, and we're stuck in the sort of the early stages of the West Coast. That this isn't the advanced West Coast offense, and we've got this dynamic quarterback, this dynamic talent, and we invested a 2nd-round pick in Polk, and why aren't we getting more out of it? And that's why I keep coming back to Alex. And again, this is just me talking. I wouldn't do it. I would keep him. For the very reasons that you just listed so much better than I did, in terms of, you brought him here as the 12th guy you interviewed, but you knew that he was a good chemistry guy and that he would do a good job building your quarterback up. I don't want to take that guy away from the quarterback when the quarterback has been the one freaking bright spot on my offense. And you could argue the brightest spot on my football team since he's been inserted into it. I don't want to take that guy away because I don't want to do what the bad franchises do and the bad staffs do all the time, which is just you're constantly spinning and you're never in full alignment with everybody. GM, head coach, coordinators. Let's just go with this and let's build the quarterback to the point where it's beautiful. Like if Brian Dable had left Josh Allen after year 2, does Josh Allen become what Josh Allen becomes in year 3?
Great point.
I spent a lot of time around them. And I think Josh is an otherworldly talent. I don't know that would have happened because he and Daboll had such an unbelievable relationship and such an honest relationship where he could just basically say to him, dude, do that again, and I'm going to smack you upside the head. They had that thing. And then the FaceTimes and the love, and they had all this stuff going, but it worked. And what I feel like, at least through 4 games, is it's working between Alex and Drake. Hey, we got 10 weeks from now and there seems to be some fissures, then okay, fine. That's a different conversation. But for right now, what he's done for him, I think has been important for the franchise.
I agree. I don't know if I have too much more to add. It just is interesting, though, because I know Giardi acknowledged this soon after he got hired, and I've not been able to find the quote. Would love to link it and credit whenever and wherever he said this. But he acknowledged that the head coach's first staff rarely looks as it does in the second year. So this is just a fact of NFL life. This is not anyone projecting sources or getting over the top about this and that. It's the way of life in the NFL. It's also the way of life when you played as poorly as they have. Especially on offense. But again, I think that continuity, like it takes a lot of time. The interesting part, you mentioned spinning, and that's people in different positions and places. There's also the spinning to ownership, where if those questions are why aren't we getting more out of this and we're the 30th ranked offense or whatever, and be like, well, look at our personnel. How many offensive linemen could you name before you go up into that big box and get cozy and the camera pans to you every other second? Like probably not many. So it might be Elliott's fault. And then the question is, well, these guys are here also because Elliott's here because he's the one who knew them in Green Bay. So I do think if there's pressure on Giardi, there's some more leverage you might have as the head coach if he wants to protect his assistants from ownership than before, because he's not necessarily the one who had the list that they started to pull names from, and those names became their new hires. It's just an interesting, unique dynamic in that sense. But the fact that change is coming, is the way you and I both believe, is not uncommon, especially at this record and this stage of a rebuild.
Yeah, I don't 100%.
Okay. Any names you would want to add, by the way? Like if we talk about either coaches that have been fired, like I'll say this, at least you're not the Raiders who decided that was not only the solution, but the solution midseason. And then we are going to go into the morgue and pull out Norv Turner's career, blow it off, shock it up, have a real life coaching Frankenstein brought in. And now he's like an advisor to us because they not only fired their OC, but the QB's coach and the O-line coach. That is good for nobody. Like you stink. You should have known you were going to stink. And they don't. And so they're taking it out on half of their staff.
Yeah, I believe there was, I think it was either one or two guys aside from Getsy's had been anything higher than a quality control coach on offense. Like that's what they hired for their staff. And remember, he was the third guy. They had Kingsbury. They had a deal done. Kingsbury asked for a third year. They didn't want to give it to him. So he jumps to Washington, which, oh, by the way, perfect for him. Perfect. He might be a head coach next year, strictly because of what he's doing with Jaden Daniels in that offense. And then they wanted Chip Kelly. And Chip wanted to bring, apparently, the word is that he wanted to bring too many guys from his UCLA staff with him to the Raiders, and they balked at that as well. So he ends up at Ohio State, and they end up with Luke Getsy's because, as Antonio Pierce said at the time, well, they whooped us when we played them in 2023. So that's like a Bill Belichick, signed Scott Chandler because he couldn't cover Scott Chandler when he was in Buffalo, even though he couldn't play. So the one name that I am totally intrigued by offensively is I think Dable's going to get fired. Again, we're just talking. I just think that even though they got the blessing from ownership and everything's great, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I just have a feeling that they could just completely turtle and tank, and he might be out. And he would be someone who, if I'm going to make a change at offensive coordinator, just based on what I just told you about he and Josh, and we kind of saw his affinity for Drake May in the Hard Knocks. I would be intrigued. I don't know if he would be intrigued about coming here, but that would be someone.
It would be an easy sell to ownership. Again, I don't want to make too much of that, but someone who's been here, the family, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. And look, that still seems to be important to them. They did, they kept Macro, they kept Elliott, they've kept a lot of people that were in place during the Belichick years, even though they wanted to move away from Bill. So,
all right, what's your final thought? Future of the team, and then we'll get quickly to Pat's Bears.
My future of the team, and it's funny, like considering where they are right now, they have the number 1 pick in the draft. Let's just assume they're going to finish in the top 5 in the draft. I don't care what position they take. I don't care if I do not care. They need blue chip talent, and they need blue chip talent and a quality person, which sometimes those don't always match. But I think it's pretty important. And I think when you look at the roster and I say wide receiver, absolutely. Tackle, absolutely. Edge, yeah, you take one of those. Abdul Carter from Penn State, I would, like if that's what you're sitting there. So to me, it's about taking the guy with the highest grade, assuming that guy isn't a quarterback, because you feel like you have your quarterback. So that's
Right.
a big one for me, is that I know we're getting into the narrative, and then I'm taking whatever I get there. Let's say I draft the wide receiver, then I'm taking my other picks and I'm trying to move up and get in the tackle. Like I'm trying to address it. I'm not sitting back. I'm not trading back to get a 4th round pick and miss out on Ladd McConkey and take Jalen Polk. Like I'm taking the guy that I think is the best player, because the roster isn't good enough to start being picky about some of this stuff. I think they need to pick guys that can actually make an impact on their football team, because again, I don't think they're going to the playoffs next year either. So that you're still building this thing out.
And this will depend on free agency, right? We started talking about the offensive line and what they should have done, and player that at least is starting caliber. Even if he gets injured, once he comes back, you plug him and play. There are no questions, no moving around, no third position for Mike Onwenu in 10 games. I think that has to be either an offensive tackle in the top 5, top 10, provided there's a player there who warrants a pick, or a trade back. And I know how everyone feels about the receivers, but you've at least got 4 guys picked in the last 2 years who have shown some margin of potential. In Javon Baker's case, that potential was flashed in early August, and not a whole lot since. Polk has been statistically the worst receiver in the league. I get that, but they will need more time, which means more opportunities. And, Travis Hunter this and that. I just think guys who are coming into the league now as receivers, because of all the 7-on-7 time they've had, just like the quarterbacks, and those have been hit or miss, might be a development thing. All that experience accelerates their development and growth. I just think you have a better chance of getting a receiver day 2 than you did in past years, unlike offensive tackle, because it is 7-on-7 until you get to high school. The reps that they have are so much fewer, in the experience and the coaching and the training, and the investment overall in the position is less. The guys who are able to overcome that, or have as much talent to be able to overcome that, are few and far between. That's why I'm stuck in the offensive tackle, in addition to the situation that they're in. But we'll see. The draft is a long way away. I'm not ready for it, but I get what you're saying. Like the talent is the talent. That's the biggest problem. Like just get dudes in here.
And so I think part of it. So like I'm not anti-trade back in this case. Last year I was take Drake. Then just let's do this thing.
Can you imagine if Curran this year is like trade up? Like what are you and I going to do with our friend Tom, and friend of the podcast, who's just constantly still bringing it up? And he mentioned in the column the other day, and I almost texted him and was like, Can we stop? Because he's fed up with me mentioning Giardi spilling orange juice and making these public unforced errors just for a laugh, or something that's so low stakes. And instead you lose confidence in the fans and the media that you can speak then to a group of alpha males behind the set of doors. I don't know. There's going to be something from Tom. I'm most excited right now to see whatever that is that Curran sinks his teeth into, and is still like a dog with a bone on that months later.
Yeah. He'll have something. It's just a guarantee.
I love Tom.
I don't want to be the team that goes too far back. And that's like, for the people, I know Curran was talking about, like, I think Minnesota was a likely trading partner there. And it's like, well, they get the multiple picks. And I'm like, now you start to get out of the realm of like the blue chip guy. The other problem with this is in your scenario of the tackle, as of right now, doesn't feel like any of those guys have sort of taken the next step, be it the guys in Texas, be it Will Campbell at LSU. Like, I think there was this thought at the beginning, like, oh, there's 3 tackles that could be top 10 picks. Now it feels like there might be 3 tackles in the top 30 picks. And and look, obviously, again, million months for this to change, and
Thank
we
God.
do it with the quarterbacks. Like, there's no way they're going to have 6 quarterbacks in the first round, and then there's 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. And you're like, what the hell just happened? Well,
right.
Things get overvalued or whatever. Somebody falls in love with somebody, and that's how it goes. But like, I don't want you to sit there at 2 and pick Will Campbell because you're desperate for a left tackle. If the grade doesn't tell you that that's where he belongs, but the grade tells you Abdul Carter belongs there, or you could use one, but we really need a left tackle. Well, no, you really need good players and difference makers. And then you go back up. Then you take all your other assets. Who gives a crap about these other picks?
When you suck this much, you cannot be picky. You do not get to be picky. Their priority is one thing, and prioritizing premium positions, I think that's obvious. And I would argue, again, a little bit more in favor of that than you are. But overall, you do not get to turn your nose up at anything. You stink. And,
well, you want to talk about dog with a bone? I'm still like, Calvin Ridley. They should have paid Calvin Ridley. They should have gone that far. Now, maybe he wouldn't have come anyway. And you go, oh, it doesn't look that great in Tennessee. It didn't look that great because the quarterback sucked.
Have you seen his quotes, his comments?
Yeah, he's a dude. They're all like that, though. Brandon Ayuk, we were all in from. You wanted? Did you not? I believe we had a conversation.
Oh, yeah. I was doing a trade pick swap, which, by the way, Niners are not going to be. It doesn't look like 25th and later in the draft as it stands right now.
But he's out there. That position, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but they are different cats, and that comes with it. The George Pickens, like, how many receivers in your lifetime can you think of that were great players? I'm talking guys that dominated games, guys that you had to like swing everything to.
Normal human beings.
Larry Fitzgerald? You got any other ones? No, it's impossible. Impossible.
Wes don't exist. Pretty normal.
Who?
Welker? He's a good foot soldier.
But he's a slot guy. I'm talking like that guy. We're all talking about that guy, that alpha on the outside. Those guys, they're all
I got you.
They're loons.
Loons. Okay. Let's get to Bears Pats. No more talk. If you want to go to Bears Pats, I have to tell you, and I already said this earlier, so you know this is part ad read, part true. All true. Just go to Game Time. They have the lowest price guaranteed you will find on tickets anywhere in the world. And I know when I go shopping, I don't want to spend a penny more than I have to if it's something that I really, really want. If you want to go to a Pats game, if you want to go to a Celtics game, anywhere in the NBA, NHL, wherever, concert shows, I don't even care. Go to Game Time for that lowest price guarantee. And it also has a new feature, Game Time Picks. You just get the best seats right up front. All in pricing. You can click on the seat, see the view, no fees, no mess, no nothing. Go to Game Time Picks, filters out all of the fluff with your lowest price guarantee. And in the rare instance, you go somewhere else and find a lower price, they will credit you 110% of that difference back to you. So go to Game Time right now, download the app, create an account, use code CLNS. Again, that's CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. You can create a Game Time account. Redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Game Time on Sunday will be noon local time. It will be 1 o'clock on the East Coast. The 4-4 Chicago Bears against the 2-7 New England Patriots. The Bears, 23rd overall by DVOA, 27th in offense, 11th on defense, and 8th on special teams. Their last four, not pretty. 29-9 loss at Arizona last weekend. Before that, 18-15 loss on a Hail Mary to Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Before that, 35-16 win over the Jaguars in London, then 36-10 win versus Carolina. So they're beating up on bad teams, taking advantage of a soft schedule. Granted, the Washington game should have been a win, and if they did win, everyone would be looking at them as, sleeper NFC making a run, yada, yada. They're not. They are a good tackling team. Their weapons have underperformed on offense, along with Caleb Williams, who's being protected by a very banged-up offensive line. So there are weak places here for the Patriots to attack. 3 matchups. I've got 2. I'm going to say 1 to buy you a little bit of time. I want you to pick a matchup, and then I will give you my 3rd. Tremaine Edmunds versus Drake May Scramble. Edmunds is a guy you covered in Buffalo. Super rangy, big, physical linebacker. I don't know whether or not he's lived up to this giant-ass contract that I was hoping a couple off seasons ago. The Patriots would get him. They did not. But that's the player that they're going to be assigning, him or TJ Edwards, as a spy or when they're in zone coverage a whole lot, to keep an eye on May. And if May gets around him often enough, he'll do what he did in Tennessee, which is go for 95 yards. And if he doesn't, then the Patriots are in real trouble, because that means he doesn't like the options he sees downfield against Jalen Johnson, and very few people do. Jalen Johnson shut down corner. And that Edmonds-May cat-and-mouse game, both literally running around, and I think with May moving zone defenders with his eyes, is going to be very, very interesting, because Edmonds is someone that has grown up a lot and is at the center of everything the Bears want to do on every single down. That, to me, is my first big matchup here.
I love it. Edmonds is he's a terrific player. He's a terrific dude, really good dude. At least from covering him, I enjoyed talking with him quite a bit. I would say you mentioned Jalen Johnson, and to me, Jalen Johnson is someone who can travel. Obviously, the Patriots don't necessarily have a player that you'd want to travel with, but I'm just curious that they even bother throwing at him. You know, however it works, are you cutting off the field because you don't want to go towards Jalen Johnson? And I'm just curious to see if they do anything with him. Like if they looked at Pop and just said, all right, well, clearly they want to get the ball to Pop, so you're our best guy. You're going to cover Pop. And whatever. We're not worried about the outside guys, but I am curious to see if they do anything with Jalen Johnson and if the Patriots can have any success thrown in his direction.
Last one for me is Jonathan Jones or Marco Wilson against the other receiver. Because when you look at the Bears, you got 3 guys over 300 yards. It's Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, who leads them in catches, but is second in yards, and then Cole Kmet, the tight end, which could really be a weak point for the Patriots if they're signing Jalen Hawkins or Del Pettis or Marte Mapu, man coverage, but we'll see. I just think Christian Gonzalez will cover one of Odunze and DJ Moore, and then Caleb Williams will look to the other side and go, okay, that works. And I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think Christian Gonzalez will shadow this week. So playing sides, I'll be very interested to see how Jonathan Jones and or Marco Wilson hold up. And maybe it is Alex Austin in the mix this week, or maybe you get a little bit more Marcus Jones on the outside. We'll see. But it's one of those matchups that I think could either blow up in their faces, or if the Bears ignore it, could really play to their strength, because that's an area I know if I was Chicago, I'd be attacking.
I should give you a bonus one. Can I give you a bonus one?
Yeah.
Waldron versus Covington. Waldron's offense is a mess. Waldron's offense is a mess right now. My boss tweeted it out. It's true. I was actually watching it this afternoon. Their offensive film in Arizona is wretched. I don't know what they're doing. You mentioned Cole Kmet. He's a really nice player. They don't use him nearly enough. I would be like, okay, look, I get we all have all these flashy pieces, but like on 3rd and 6, I'm going to get him the ball. He's a house of a human being, and he's a good athlete. And DeMarcus, obviously, look, we know the injuries, and that's certainly factored into some of their performance, but just inconsistent week after week after week. If I'm Waldron, I'm trying to run the ball down their throat and make them stop me, because they haven't been able to do it. And quite frankly, I think the Jets got away from it, and it's probably partially why the Jets lost the football game. But I don't know that Waldron's that smart. So we'll see how that flies.
Yeah, 27th by DVOA. That's just barely above what the Patriots are right now. That's statistically, with all the talent and everything they have there, including offensive leaders calling Waldron out for not being aggressive enough. I think in week 3 or 4, that's about as good of a sign as the players only meeting happening in September, is the public calling out of the rookie first-year offensive coordinator in Chicago by the rookie quarterback. 2 keys. You mentioned the middle. I think the Patriots need to run up the middle. Andrew Billings is out, starting defensive tackle for the Bears. Torn pec, probably gone for the season. Their best runs have been duo and inside zone. A lot of double teams. Get downhill, get behind them. I don't expect Ramondre Stevenson to go for even 80 yards in Chicago, okay? But it needs to be a lot more than 16. And those plays, I think, are through the middle, attacking a Bears weakness, and also getting behind some of their best plays, or even through 4 weeks. Like, you're averaging more than 5 yards per carry on duo and inside zone. Do more of that.
Yes, it's what you do well. Do it. Embrace what you do well. Keep doing it until someone stops it.
You gave a bonus key. I'm going to give you a bonus matchup. I'll give you one more key, and if you have a third, fire away. If not, we can move on to the wild card thought. Hunter Henry needs to eat on Sunday, because he has seen the 10th most targets of any pass catcher in the entire league against zone coverage. The Bears under Eberflus are still one of the old Tampa 2, 4 down front. Like, this is what we do. And they spin the dial a little bit, some zone pressures and stuff like that. But Hunter Henry is going to face a ton of zone coverage. He does an excellent job finding the soft spots, sitting down. They need to target him over the middle against those zones time and again and again and again. Because if you don't, I think you're just leaving food on the table. And that's something you can't do, because your offense, as we know, is starving.
Yeah, it's funny what you have when you have a competent quarterback, what it can do for Hunter Henry. He's got such a good knack for playing the game. Maybe he doesn't run as well as he used to, but he still knows how to get open. And he finds ways. And when you throw it to him, 99 out of 100 times he catches it too. So he's in the trust tree for sure.
All right, wild card thought. Anything adjacent to the game, stuff we haven't covered. Pats Bears, first trip there since 2018. First game against the Bears since everyone's favorite Monday night affair in 2022. Chance of Zappy in the ugliest Patriots, one of the ugliest Patriots games that year. 33-14 Bears win.
No, my wild card thought would be the first time I ever went there. It was a December game, I believe, and it was when we had to walk from the parking lot to get to the stadium. The snow was coming down so hard it hurt, and I actually turned around and walked backwards. Which, shave your butt and walk backwards. That's what I had to do, because it was that bad. And then post game, they wanted us to be live on the field, and it was still snowing. And I said, no, you're ridiculous. Like, I could be right in front of the camera and you're not going to be able to see my face because of the snow. It's freezing. It's nasty. I'm going to be a diva. We're inside, period. End of story. We had a nice brick wall behind us, whatever, cinder block wall, hideous. But I was like, we're not going out there. It's ridiculous.
It's that was 2010. Deion Branch caught a touchdown right before halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, running in the snow like they were kids, and the Bears were like very careful, slipping around, and a good team that year, but not good enough to get in the Patriots.
It was a quality game. I mean, you go to Chicago, late year, you get to see a weather game. So it's all right.
My thing, this is the strangest looking stadium in the league from the outside, and I don't think it's particularly close. This is Soldier Field. All due respect, all the history is there. This doesn't take away from it. It looks like an alien ship landed on top of a Greek or Roman temple because you've got the columns on the outside and all of the pillars. And my Latin class background in education could tell you exactly what kind of columns they have. They might be Doric, they might be Ionic, they might be Corinthian columns. But on top of that, I could not tell you what the ship is because it is not from planet Earth. And there you have the windows and all of the seats. And even the seating inside is like a little awkward. And I know they've looked at and talked about moving to Aurora, which is not in Chicago, and building some sort of, decadent suburban stadium. I hope they don't. But I would love some sort of remodeling from the strangest stadium if you've ever been there on the outside, because you think I'm exaggerating for some weird laughs about the alien ship landing on this ancient temple. It's exactly how it looks, and I can't get over how they landed there.
And the press box is hideous. And oh, by the way, get your food.
No one cares about that, though. Yeah.
Nah, but so what? This is like this is inside baseball stuff. The press box is hideous, and if you're gonna get your food, you better get it early because they don't run extra out there. Once it's gone, it's gone.
You're not. Are you coming?
No comment.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Game pick. Are they gonna win?
No. 20-16.
Oh, okay. Pretty much last week.
Yeah. You think
I got 23-20. They're favored by 6, which I think came down from 7. I still think the Patriots are just everyone's get right game. This is your slump buster coming into town, and they've lost 2 in a row, and they don't think they should have lost, and that bled into the next because they're not a great team and poorly coached, and that's what happens. But eventually, with that amount of talent, you get right. And either this is they get up 10 early, and it's even the rest of the way, or it's close, and then they pull away late, and you just like I can't imagine. Drake does it all on his own. A do-it-yourself offense again and comes that close. Which I think the Patriots will play better and run the ball a little bit better, but talent is what it is, man. It's tough around him.
Very tough. Very tough. And like to your point, I mean, he was a 23 of 26 at one point in the game against Tennessee. Like he's doing what he can, and you're just gonna have to live with the mistakes. As I asked Alex Van Pelt today, the good thing is, and Alex, can kind of confirm my thought, was like he's not making the same mistake twice. So he's done a good job of sort of learning through the process here, and you just hope that continues on that sort of track.
Yeah, and I'm a little wary, not worried about do the old habits come back like we saw in North Carolina. I have to do too much. I have to do this all myself, play the Superman hero ball. Not going to say anything more than that because we need to see what happens, and I think he's shown great discipline so far, aside from that overtime. But like, hey, you got to make something happen. All right, Mike Giardi, you get an A+++ as well for this episode.
Nice.
Thanks for hanging
You're
out.
Such an easy grader.
I know, I'm just easy, period. And
my dog gets an F. He hasn't stopped barking for the last 40 minutes.
I did hear a little bit of that. I was
my God, he's insane. He's here to torment me. That's really what it is.
Well, someone has to. Your kids are gone. All right, I will bug you surely in about 6 weeks, at which point I don't think we'll do past, present, or future. We will just be probably looking at the future in the offseason, even though the Patriots have game less to play because I don't know. Winter's coming early now these past few years, but hey, hopefully we get surprised. They win one of these coming up, and then I don't know. We'll do something more fun than that.
Sounds good to me.
See you, pal.
See ya.
Back for another big 4-minute drill with Big Mike Onwenu.
Yep.
Got the 4 fingers up. We're midway through the season. I just asked you how you're doing. You gave me the stand. Like, yeah, we're good. We're fine.
I'm solid.
Good. We're going to get you to open up a little bit more here. Ready to start the clock?
Let's run it.
Okay. Number 1, you negotiated your own $57 million contract this offseason. What advice would you give to the rest of us who would love at $57 million on their own?
Read into it, look at the trends, and pretty much that's all I did.
All right. The worst date you've ever been on?
The worst day I've ever been on, probably just her burping, if I remember. She was just belching obnoxiously throughout the night.
Okay, where did you go? How quickly did you leave? Did you know on the spot this is the last one? Like, how loud were these belches?
It wasn't a crazy loud burp, but, it was one of them burps that you smell, and it was like, all right. After about 2, it was like, no. We finished dinner, but after that, it was pretty much that was it.
College, or you're in the pros?
This was college. College. Yeah.
Did you ever see her again?
Yeah, on campus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you hear her first?
No, I didn't hear it first.
All right, we'll move on. Your proudest moment as a Patriot?
Probably really just getting drafted, to be honest. That day was really surreal. I was around my family, so I would say that. And then like my first game, I remember we played the Dolphins, and I was a jumbo tight end, and I got a good block my first play of being in the NFL. So that was pretty dope. Yeah,
21-11 win, not bad.
Yeah, it was.
Very good. All right, people don't understand blank about offensive line play.
Probably, I mean, it's kind of hard to say because I would say, if you're blocking good, they really don't care about you. But when you're not blocking good, that's when they say something about you. So I would just say, like, our techniques of blocking. I would say that they don't understand that.
Okay.
Sometimes what we're trying to get at.
You look like a Love is Blind guy. Do you watch that on Netflix?
No, I don't.
Okay, what guilty TV show or music do you have? Because there's got to be one.
Guilty?
Yeah.
I like everything I watch.
Okay.
Probably just the Food Network shit.
Really? Or what are you watching there?
Really everything on there. Guy's Diner, the Triple D, diners, drive-ins, and dines. What else? That's pretty much it. Pretty much the Food Network or HGTV.
Halloween just passed. So I would have asked you this beforehand. Are you a scary movie guy?
I on and off scary movie guy. It's not my first choice, but I like scary movies. Yeah.
You ever stop watching a scary movie because it was just too much in the middle?
No, never that.
Okay. All right. The teammate you would least like to date your sister?
Probably. I don't know. We don't got a lot of bad guys, but I'm just throwing one out there. Probably KB.
Okay, well, he's a married man, so you're in luck. But why KB?
Man. He's a good guy, but I feel like back in the day he was just wild.
It's funny. Everyone said a receiver, so we are still perfect here.
I would just say all receivers, pretty much. I wouldn't let them date my daughter.
Yeah. All right. You can block this person in life. It's a non-football person, but you get a one-on-one square-up block against them. Who are you picking, and why?
My mama, because I'm a blocker ass.
Why do you want to block your mom? You want to pancake your mom? Why?
I would. Nah, no reason. But if I had to block someone, it could be anybody.
Anybody. You just get to stand there and pancake their ass. And we're gonna come back to mom. This is the most surprising answer we've ever had.
I'm joking about that. I wouldn't pancake my mom. If it was my dad or my brother, I probably would. I would pick my brother pretty much because he played D tackle in high school. So as I got into football and I played more offense, he always said he would beat me. So I don't think he would.
All right, we got two more. You played for Jim Harbaugh. Yep. You played for Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. Give us a quick Harbaugh or Belichick story.
I'll give you a Harbaugh story. I think I don't know when this was, but really it was just like after one of these practices. I think it was a Friday, and he was just talking about competing in a game. And we usually had like these our Friday night dinners or our meals before the game. So we have like steak and milk, and like not steak and milk together, but I'm saying we have like steak, potatoes, corn, like all that, like a cookout, a grill. Pretty much, I was just sitting next to him. And he was sitting at the O-line table, and we were always just chilling, hanging out, and he was just busting open, like, bottles of milk. He probably drank about 2 bottles of milk and that sitting of eating a whole steak, some corn and a potato, and followed it up with 2 cans of milk.
So what you see is what you get. We've seen Jim Harbaugh with a lot of milk.
He drinks a lot of milk, I would say so.
All right, last one. Least favorite media question?
I don't have one, to be honest. I mean, I'm an open book. Whatever you want to know. I don't know if you got a question for me, but what's your least favorite question that you dislike to ask?
I don't ask this, so that's why it's my least favorite. But anything that starts with, can you just talk about, and then blank. That's not a question. That's just
really
getting you to comment on a certain topic. That's being lazy as a reporter. Can you talk about how good this interview was?
This was a dope interview. Okay. I'll do it again.
Appreciate you. Mike Onwenu for a big 4-minute drill. Appreciate you, bud.